Okay, after having seen the part of an introduction and review, having a little bit of a review about the literature, let's go deeply into our investigation. Our investigation is focused, as Jonas already told you, on Temasek investments. So what do we want to do is to examine and analyze the determinants of Temasek's investments. There are two kinds of determinants, so for determinants for target countries and determinants for target sectors. We decide to focus our analysis on the country characteristics, so on the target countries determinants, since data are easier to get. We had a collection of data of Temasek's investments from 1996 till 2010, available from a database from the University of Namur. So after having this, we developed some control variables and constructed a fixed effect model for panel data. Of course, we have some hypotheses, and our main hypothesis is that Temasek does not invest randomly, pointing the fingers on the globe, as you can see here in the picture. But the question is, what is really attracting the sovereign funds Temasek to a specific country? What are the determinants? Are they financial, macroeconomical, cultural, or geographical? So we will see now in our study that there are some results that are really linked to the already found results from the literature, so macroeconomical, cultural and geographical. So then we had started to collecting our data from the database, and we found 209 Temasek's foreign investments on 27 target countries. As you can see here in the picture, the most target countries were China, India, Hong Kong, Indonesia and USA. And going on, in our 15 years range and period of investments, there have been 209 foreign investments, and as we can see here from the picture, we have hold investments with a high increase around about the 2004-2005. We decided to exclude from our study the investments from 1989 till 1996, because there were less investments, just the 5% of all. So let's go in deeply in our model. We found and we created a fixed effects model for panel data. As we can see here, the formula, our dependent variable YIT is the number of investments in country E in the year T. Then we have 10 independent variables. Every independent variable that we will analyze them later will be the value of that variable in the year T for the country E. In addition to them, we created some 9 dummy regional variables. I will explain you in a few minutes what are these 9 regional variables. So here there are the variables that we have analyzed as independent variables, and here you can see Singapore. Going deeply, we have 10 control variables that are exchange rate in the target country, development level for each country, and then the language. The two most spoken languages in Singapore are English and Mandarin. So if the target country speak the same language of Singapore, there will be a value of 1 of this variable, otherwise 0. Then we created the variable partner. Partner is the number of the imports from of the target country from Singapore. Then we have GDP per capita growth, the return rate in target country, and the variable clause. For the variable clause, that is the dummy variable, we decided a range of 2000 kilometers. So if the target country is within this range of 2000 kilometers distance from Singapore, it will take the value 1, otherwise it will take the value 0. Then we have the gross domestic product per capita, the rating available from Fitch for each target country, and then the PR. What are the PR? PR, the political relationships. This is a value that takes that's in a range from -1 till 1. They are been taken and analyzed from United Nations voting records. So if Singapore and the target country have always voted in the same way, in the same year, that this variable will take the value of 1. Otherwise, if they always vote the opposite weight in the United Nations, this variable will take the value of -1. Now let's go deeply into our regional dummy variables. We have found 9 regional dummy variables, as you can see here in the picture, and this variable I will explain you with a short example. So if we are analyzing the investments in Brazil, for all the investments in Brazil, the variable South America will take the value of 1 and all the other will take the value of 0. And we decide as our referral dummy variable Middle East, so it won't appear in our regression. So after some descriptive statistics, we created a correlation matrix to analyze and to have an idea what can influence the investments per year. So as you can see here, we have a significant but lower coefficient value of language and investments per year, but it is positive and it can give us an idea on of how language can influence the investments, and that's the same for the GDP growth and for department. On the other hand, we have another negative coefficient for development and another negative coefficient, but it is not statistically significant, just value in bold type are statistically significant for political relationships. All the other correlations can have some high level of correlationship, especially with the GDP variables, also because they can be strictly correlated. For example, development level and GDP are always correlated between them. So let's go deeply in our regressions, and we have done 2 different regressions. The first one is including the variable political relationships and excluding all the 16 investments that have been made in Hong Kong since 1996 till 2010. This is because the data for political relationships for Hong Kong were not available in the database that we have used. So after the regression, we can easily find here that we have 3 variables that are statistically significant at 1%. These are language, so it means with a positive coefficient, that it means that maybe if in the target country is spoken the same language of Temasek, there is more interest for Temasek to invest in, and that's the same for partner and GDP growth. So probably Temasek are investing in partner countries and countries with a high level of GDP growth. With a 5% of statistical significance, we have the political relationships variable, and with a negative coefficient. It means that, as in the literature, Temasek prefer to invest in countries with a lower level of political relationships. And now, analyzing our dummy variables with our dummy regional variables, we found that we have a 10% of statistical significance that Temasek prefer to invest in South America and Central Asia. But it's not. How does it work? So, if they have to decide, for example, between 2 different countries, and one of them is located in South America and Central Asia, they would prefer to invest there, also if the 2 countries have the same level of language, partner, GDP growth, for unknown reasons that are not explained in this model. Then we went on a little bit with this model, excluding the variables that were not significant, and the results that we obtained were more or less the same, with language part and GDP growth important, and without decreasing a lot our R² of 35.5%, more or less. So then, just to confirm the results of our first regression, we have done another regression with Hong Kong investments, excluding, of course, the variable political relationship. And the results that we obtained are really consistent with the previous results. As we can see here, language, partner, GDP growth are statistically significant as before, with the same sign of the coefficient, and in addition we have 5% of statistical significance for the variable close with a negative sign. So probably it has been influenced by the 16 Hong Kong investments, because Hong Kong takes the value 0 for the close variable, because it's not in the range of 2,000 kilometers with Singapore. Then we have a 10% of statistical significance for the variable development, that with a negative sign can say us that probably Temasek prefer to invest in less developed countries. Regarding the regional variables, we can see now that we have a 1% of statistical significance for Africa and Australia with a negative coefficient. So, for the same reason that I already explained to you before, if Temasek has to decide within two countries with the same level language, close development, they won't invest in Africa or Australia and Oceania. This is a thing that doesn't go against the results that we obtained before. In fact, they have negative sign, and the result that we had before has a positive sign. The R-squared of this model is around about 34%. So, for concluding our analysis and our presentation, we can go on with some deduction and conclusions. So here we can see, and also starting from what we have studied from literature, we can see that Temasek has more or less the typical behavior of many sovereign wealth funds. So first of all, return rate is not important in the target country. GDP growth is one of the main goal and determinants for Temasek to invest in a specific country. They prefer to invest in countries with weaker political relationship. With Singapore has weaker political relationships, and it is also important the language spoken. So if they speak the same language, Temasek will invest in that country. All these four results are supporting the results that we have found in the literature. But for this variable, it's quite difficult to work on for a country. So how can I track a Temasek investments? I can't change my language spoken or the political relations. This is a little bit difficult, but an idea could be work on the trade relationships, because as we have seen there before, we have an high importance for the variable partner. So if the target country is importing a lot from Singapore, Temasek will be more interested in investing in. So this is a thing that a country can work on. So I hope to have solved all your doubts, and these are also the reason why Temasek has invested a lot in China too, and going back to Jonas' questions. Thank you all.